to someone with whom it's about that time, someone with whom I have a tremendous amount of respect for. Why don't you let us know who do we have today? Who do we have today?
Today we have Deborah B. Hamilton, also known as Dr. Deb, coined by our very own Charles Gregory. Deborah is the CEO and founder of Nurture Your Love LLC with over 40 years of experience as a love coach.
It's a long time.
Yeah, she helps married women and couples build deeper connections by fostering self-love, which she believes is the key to a fulfilling and harmonious marriage. Y'all already know what to do. Let's give a warm We Talk Weekly welcome. Welcome to Dr. Deb Hamilton.
How are you? How are you?
She giggles at the doctor.
I know. I know.
I
guess I'm stuck with it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, you stuck with it.
He gave it to you.
Hey, it's all good. Embrace it. You know what you're talking about.
This must be a
I
gift
love
for
it.
me on my first day back.
Oh,
I
right.
was thinking about that. I was thinking about that. That's true. I was thinking about that.
So you know what? So let's start there, right? Well, as I fix your camera, right? Let's start there. And so we have a newly married young lady here today, Lady Esther. Why don't you give her some? Because you was here before, and you
Yes.
told her, you kind of gave her some cues going into the marriage. Now she's in marriage.
That's right. Let's
Right.
talk.
So let's talk there. Let's start there. So what type of things would you tell her now that she's married, right?
Yep.
What would you give her? What type of advice would you give her? What would you say?
I just say keep, what all you did before you got married to get to the point where you want to be married is keep doing that. You have to stay focused on what you love about your spouse, and keep reminding yourself the reason why you married him, right? So a lot of times as time goes on, we forget that part. We forget why we married the person we married, and we're going to have arguments, we're going to have disagreements, but the bottom line is your team now.
That's right.
It's not separate. You're not, you and him. It's us. We're a team. So everything that you decide to do, make sure that you do it together and have conversations about, your thoughts and wants and desires. And that's what I recommend anybody to do, is to always stay focused on why you married the person and to make sure that you are a team. And it's hard when you first get married anyway to be a team because you're so used to doing you. But when you think about why you got married and who you're with, always remember that you married this person for a reason, and you marry for life, and not to get to the point where you feel like, okay, I don't like you today, so I want a divorce. Because you're going to run into that. You're definitely going to run into that.
What say you? What say you? What say you, Stace?
I think that's great advice.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of it, I'm already in that headspace, so it means I'm off to a good start. So, yeah, that's appreciated. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So there's a conversation that has been happening. No, I'll get to that later. So you mentioned, everything is joint now, right? You become a team. I have heard oftentimes where there's this narrative or pushing that, you're still supposed to have something in the tuck. Go get your own account. You don't have to share everything with him. And it's usually said to the woman to do that, not necessarily the guy, right? The guys are like, okay, right? But what's your thoughts on, the idea of, not necessarily telling your spouse, what you have, but, still opening up a separate account? I believe that it's still okay to have a separate, just let them know, like I got something else, like a savings or something like that. What's your thoughts on that? Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I think that, okay, let me ask you this. What was the conversation before you got married? What were your expectations?
Right.
Did you talk about bank accounts? Did you talk about whether those bank accounts are going to be joint or if they're going to be separate? Who's going to pay what? All those things are important. So there's no right or wrong. It's what you as a team decide to do.
I like that. I like that answer. And I think a lot of people don't think of or don't talk about quote unquote deal breakers, right?
True.
I don't
That's
think
so
people
true.
go in and say, okay, it's this. I guess they call it the honeymoon time or whatever, right? But I don't think before you get married, you talk about like, yo, babe, this is a deal breaker for me. Maybe not like that said like that, but I don't think a lot of people talk about what really grinds their gears, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so, how would somebody initiate a conversation like that? Because that can be an uncomfortable conversation, right? Yeah.
It doesn't have to be uncomfortable.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be uncomfortable because if that's part of what you discussed or what you want to know about a person before you even marry them,
Right.
which you definitely should have that conversation before you marry someone
Yeah.
to know what their finances are, to know what their credit score is. You need to know that information because when you get together and you decide to buy a house or something major, you need to know what the finances look
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
So my thing is keep talking, keep having conversation, and make sure you having a conversation when there's not stress happening. Make sure that conversation is a general conversation when everybody is good, not when a circumstances come about where you're like, well, why you didn't tell me this?
Yeah.
No, have the conversation when everybody's cool, when everybody is relaxed and just having an A and B conversation. It should be brought up.
Right.
And for all these people who are out here who are not married and considering marriage, please have the conversation before you get married because the last thing you need to do is be having this conversation after you get married.
Right. Dr. Deb, 40 years as a coach, as a marriaging coach, that's a long time. What's the most surprising lesson that you've learned as a relationship coach?
First of all, I've been married for over 40. I've been in a relationship for over 40 years, not doing this for 40 years. So
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
let's clarify that right
I
now.
understand.
Okay, but to me, and I say this over and over again, people don't know who they are.
Yeah.
People don't have a clue who they are, and they get into relationships and they just decide as they go along, trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest thing that I talk about in my Married Women's Forum and when I'm talking to couples. Figure out who you are. Believe me, as I talk about my book tonight, I'm going to talk about that because there's so much trauma going on in our society.
Yeah.
And you're bringing that trauma into your relationship. But what are you doing before you come into the relationship? What are you doing to take care of you? What are you doing to understand your wants, desires, and needs? So that you be able to tell your partner what that is. Because if you don't know, how can you express what you need, what you want, what you desire? You have to know who you are.
Right. Yeah. So I have a question. There's this debate. There's a few debates going on, especially the battle of the sexes, right? But what's your take on, it comes out of the Bible, but this whole equally yoked conversation, right? When you hear that, how do you define that? What does that actually mean? I hear it so many different ways what equally yoked is, right? But how would you define it, or how would you approach that conversation?
Most people define it through religion, right? Most people talk about being equally yoked once you're married. When it comes to marriage, sometimes you're not equally yoked. You determine that based on what your partner does versus what you do. Everybody has their own skill sets, right? So it's what you bring to the table, and that's a discussion that you have to have as well. Marriage is not always equal.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. It is not. And we have to find the middle ground of what that looks like for each couple. So that's basically what it is. But the bottom line is, what are you bringing to the table? What have you decided each person is going to do or bring to the table? And that's based on each couple. So it differs.
Right.
So we can't just put a blanket statement on that.
So when there's, a quote unquote girl talk conversation where you hear, the young lady say, well, I want someone who, if I'm educated, and I got a great job, then, I'm, a guy isn't good enough for me if he doesn't have a background or he's not educated as much as me or X, Y, and Z, because that's something I have been hearing lately, right? And so how would you approach, is there some merit to that? Or, I mean, because for me, right, I think, I think that everyone is different, right? And for some people that may work, right? Equally yoked may be, okay, well, he doesn't have a job. Meanwhile, he just redid your whole house with his hands, right? That you didn't have to pay for. But so how do you have that conversation, or how would you, engage in conversation with a narrative that someone believes in something like that? What would you say to them?
You're blocking your blessings.
Oh, see, that's Dr. Dad right there. I'm telling you. Yeah, wow.
You're blocking your blessings because you're limiting yourself with
Right.
finding somebody who could love on you and love you the way you want to be loved, irregardless of what his job title is, irregardless how much money he has in the bank. What else does he bring to the table?
Wow.
And that's what you got to consider. So that's why I didn't mention that in the beginning about being equally yoked from that perspective,
Right.
because you can't base it on that.
Yeah.
That's why so many people are single now, because they're looking for that professional person because they're professional. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But the pool is slim to find that person.
Yes.
So don't limit yourself. Don't block your blessings. Look beyond what you think you want.
Right.
And
right.
are you sure that you want that?
Yeah.
Again, you got to know who you are.
Right. Right.
Do you think that it's a lot of celebrities that they glamorize with the whole, get in the bag? He got to make over. I don't even know if it's 6 or 7 figures now.
7.
Like it's 7.
Yeah, it's like 7 figures. Yeah.
So yeah, but and I think what you said, see, about the equally yoked, I'm looking at it to say, if a woman, let's just say, she's looking for a guy with a 6-pack, but she doesn't work out, or
Right.
you're looking for somebody who is,
I didn't think about that. Yeah,
the
for sure.
on the exercise or the healthy eating, or whatever that is, but you're looking for something that doesn't necessarily mirror you. I think Kevin Samuels had that type of concept when he presented it, so what do you say to people who are looking at the glamorization of celebrities to say, to try to mirror Cardi B and Offset?
Good question.
You can't. You're
Yeah.
not being realistic
Yeah.
because you're looking at the average person, not the celebrity, the average person, and what that average person brings to the table. And I mean, you could be choosy. I don't have a problem with you saying I want somebody who's willing to work out with me, but maybe not to the degree that you might want them to work out with you, right? So anything is possible, but I don't want you to have such specific ideas of what your mate should look like
Yeah.
without really exploring other possibilities.
You think that starts, and then specifically for women, do you think that starts from fairy tale age when they're a child and
Disney.
mom is telling,
Yeah.
Disney. Yeah.
Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. All of us get read these fairy tales that are not true.
Knight in shining armor.
Marriage is not glamorous. Let's just be honest. Marriage is work.
Yeah.
So, the fairy tale is a lie. Don't believe the hype. It's a lie.
That's
You
right.
taking
Marriage-
notes? It's like, yes, Dad.
Marriage is real. There's ups and downs, and my husband's here with me tonight, so
Yeah,
I'm glad
don't
he's
give
here.
him more.
But I mean, we have like this great marriage. I love being married to this
Let me
man.
put this brother on the camera real quick, because I mean, he coming. We gonna get him in this conversation.
He hasn't said much yet, so she must be on the right track. He hasn't
right.
jumped in yet.
Let me turn this camera around. How are you, my brother?
We do.
You know we do. Stop it.
I feel good. I feel so good right now.
We do, because
you.
we both of us were previously married, And we both worked on ourselves. We both knew what we wanted, and we became friends.
Right.
I'm gonna say this again.
Wow.
We became friends way before we got into a relationship.
Right.
So we knew so much about each other, and we knew what we wanted from each other, right? So all of that comes into play instead of meeting someone and saying, "Oh, I want to be with you." Get to know the person. That's the key. Get to know them. And David and I, that's what we did, right? We talked and became friends. Even before we even thought about being a couple, we became friends.
Right, but she did check me on that finance thing. So she's absolutely right, and I agree. You can have all the love in the world, but if your finances are not together, it doesn't make the love real good. You know,
He's talking from experience.
I'm talking from experience, but I'm just saying in general, you are absolutely right. You do need to make sure you have these conversations because it interferes with your relationship down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
It may not seem like it, but it will get in the way. So
And how do you make that work with the blended family? Both been married previously, and then now bringing your families together. Give us some insight or some guidelines on how to make that successful.
Well, your children have to know that you're interested in someone. It's not like the person you're madly in love with just shows up one day and you're like, we're going to be together. There's conversations about that. Especially if there's young children involved, you make sure that this is the relationship that you're serious about before you bring in anybody else.
Right.
But the other thing is, when you are dealing with adult children, they need to know that you are dating someone or going to be with someone, but in the final analysis, it's your decision. If they don't live in your house, it's your decision on whatever you want to do. And that's the part that, you got to think about.
yeah, that was a conversation we had. And to realize that they are adults, and so are we, and this is what it is.
Right.
And you can come on in or not,
Right.
but I can't live for you because I raised you, and now, this is our new life.
Yep.
So.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah, that helps because I have adult children as well, and it seems like the tables kind of turn a little bit when they get to be like almost 30-ish and over. They try to I guess rule your life now as if they're the parent. Can you tell us about how do we maintain intimacy? You've been together for so long. I know you still, you do the date nights, you do those type of things, but how do you keep that not just on the intimacy side of the bedroom, but how do you just keep that alive, that fire burning?
I'm so good at this. Let me tell you. No, I love it. Actually, that's what we're talking about in my Married Women's Forum. So, but the one thing that I think people forget is the emotional aspect of intimacy. And that entails so many things, right? Feeling safe with your spouse. That is crucial. That is key. You have to feel safe because intimacy is all about having those conversations, being able to, if something's on your mind, feeling comfortable to be able to share that information with your spouse, right? Yeah. Being able to talk about any and everything without the fear of being judged, without the fear of being put down, because you want a safe haven in your environment.
That's right.
So all of that is important when it comes to intimacy, but there's so many wonderful things that you could do to keep intimacy going. And I think I had mentioned this before, but putting that card in the mail, which is such a wonderful surprise. I do that with David all the time. I'll put a card in the mail, dance, sometimes we forget, that we used to dance together, right? And David and I will hear a song and we'll get up and we'll dance. And the other thing is we reminisce a lot. We reminisce about when we were dating and what we did, and
That
you know,
keeps it strong.
it does,
The
doesn't it?
reminiscing brings everything to the center.
Yep,
Right.
yep,
To to check with yourself to make sure, yeah, that's what it was.
yep.
Because we can easily forget about, because every day, the way life is, the way this world is turning, you forget.
Yeah.
You lose track of time.
I think that's an excellent transition to go into how did you meet? How did you guys meet? You want to let's reminisce then. Let's go down that road, right? Because
So
I
that-
want to know.
No, I was going to say, so that reminiscing is almost like that, remembering why you got married in the first place.
That's
right, that's
Thing,
right.
keeping things on track.
Yes, that it keeps it going. Well, I met David. David is my brother-in-law's best friend, and I used to live in Cincinnati before I moved here, and I would come to visit my sister, who lives. Well, she was living here in Philly, but then she moved to Delaware, and I would come, and the first couple of times it was, "Hi, how you doing?" And my sister, it was so interesting because my sister would always be like, David, you remember my sister Debbie?" And
From Ohio.
From Ohio. And then and we would just say hi to each other and keep it moving, right?
Ohio.
And then the third time I came, we finally had a conversation. And the conversation is where we found out.
Went like that.
I know, right? We found out things about each other that we had in common. And it was just an A and B conversation. It wasn't like, I'm trying to get to know you, you're trying to get to know me. It was just the first time we actually had a conversation. And it was a really good conversation.
Right.
And then I left and I went back to Ohio. And then months later, we started talking, moved here, and we just continued the conversation and then discovered how much we liked each
The
other.
move was not because of me.
No. No.
Hey, let
I
me
did
clear
not-
it up now. Let me clear it up.
No, I did not move here for David. I moved here for me. I had ended my, I had been separated from my ex-husband for 3 years anyway.
Right.
And I moved here because of the circumstances was right. You know, I wanted to start fresh. I wanted something new. And that's why I moved here, not for David. But I mean, I'm glad I did.
There you go.
Say it again.
I'm glad I did.
Hey, look at that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
So that's how everything got started with
Right,
us. It was, I just love our
I keep her laughing.
every day.
I could tell.
Every day. Every single day,
That's
this
funny.
man makes
She
me
thought
laugh.
I would run out of jokes
Never.
and entertainment because I entertain her.
Yes.
That's the other thing.
Exactly.
That's our dynamics too. She could say something to me and I just take it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And
Creates the scenarios.
yes, but puts a smile on her face that is
Yes.
real and genuine.
Right.
And that's that love that I have for her because she's like real.
Wow.
And she can't hide it if she isn't real.
That is true.
And that's the other part I love
Yeah.
because I can say, I'm in trouble. But in most part, it's always, very good energy.
Yes.
Very good.
Fantastic.
I like how you just said that though, because she said you have to know yourself. Well, once you get to have your partner, then he's supposed to or she study you.
Yes.
So when you're dating,
Yes.
it's like have somebody who has the wherewithal or that emotional intelligence to be like, hey, I'm studying you as well. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yep.
So like when, as a coach, do you believe in the whole chemistry thing? Like when they're doing online dating and they're like checking the boxes to see if people are compatible. Does that matter? Because compatibility is what keeps you together, but is compatibility just routine over time? Like you just get used to people's, their ways.
Only if you let it. I just feel like David and I know each other very well.
But it was that one-on-one in person.
I agree.
I think you really need to have that
Yeah.
personally because, behind the screen or the curtain, it's different
Right.
until you actually sit down and look into that person's eyes and feel their energy. It's just a natural thing. We all have it.
Yeah. But
You
we
can
don't.
look at someone on a job and right away go, oh no, this not gonna work.
That energy, right? Energy don't lie.
You
No,
know,
that's
it's
true.
just energy that you have when
right.
it's live.
Yeah. And I agree. You have to, I think that chemistry can happen as time goes on.
Right.
But it's all about getting to know each other. And that's the key. You have to know each other. You have to, first of all, you have to want to know someone. You
Very
can't
true.
just, say, I want to get with this person. I want to hang with this person. No, you have to get to know them. You have to want to know them.
So because you said that, this time, jeez, I got so many other questions. And
sorry.
no, that's all right, because jeez, all right. But real quick, because you say that, and I think of the idea that some women, when they get into relationships, they may see a guy that they believe might be broken and they can fix him.
Oh, please don't.
Right. And so when it happens a lot, because it's what they see, they want a different person, right? So how do you engage in conversation with someone that they have someone that they kind of like, right? But it's not 100% there. So they feel the need to fix to get it to 100%, Can that happen? Or what should they do? Should they just say kind of like, we shouldn't even be in this situation? Like, how do you grasp that concept of you can't fix anyone? That's who they are, and either you deal with it or don't.
That's so true. No one can change anyone. The person has to be willing to change. Doesn't mean they won't change.
Right.
It just means that they have to be willing to change. We have no control over anybody but ourselves. We can't change anyone, only ourselves.
Right.
So when you see someone, and not to say the person doesn't have potential,
Right.
but if you're having a conversation with this person and you're telling this person what you want, what your wants, needs, and desires are, and if they're not listening or if they don't feel you, you're wasting your time. That's the bottom line. You're wasting your time.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, even guys, I think we get caught up into, if we like someone, we try our best to make them like us, and we can't make listen, gentlemen, you can't, if they don't like you, you can't make them like you.
Right.
It's a vibration there. If y'all meant to be together, it'll feel natural, it'll feel right. But I think a lot of us men, we often see a young lady that we really like and we do everything to make her like us, and it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
It has to be, mutual. It has to be mutual.
Now, marriage is on the front end, divorce is on the back end. Unfortunately, do you talk to your
You just went there.
do you talk to your clients about that? And one question I have is, when parents use children as pawns, even outside of the divorce, to just use that child to the parent to say, I'm almost going to make you do what I want you to do based on using the children. What do you say to those type of people who do that?
Well, you're hurting the children. And that's the bottom line. If you're a good mother or a good father, then you're gonna look at your children and see how your behavior is affecting your children. That's the bottom line.
Sometimes the kids don't even know. Sometimes they're just doing it behind, like the children don't know, but they're telling each other as adults, this, throwing their child in their face, like, well, I'll take your whole family, or, those type of things.
You know what? We all have this disillusion that children don't know things. But they do.
They know everything.
Yeah.
Children feel vibrations. Children feel what's going on. They might not know exactly what it is, but think about the fact of how the parent talks about the other parent, how they respond when the parent shows up or when the parent calls. And how many conversations have they had when they think their children aren't listening,
Oh, man.
but they are? So you have to be careful. You have to be careful with how you deal with the other person. Even though my children were grown when I got divorced, I didn't say much at all in front of my children about my relationship. And my book that I just wrote,
Oh, let's
Yeah,
talk
we gonna
about
get in
it,
that.
I'm telling you, it's everybody gonna be surprised.
Well, you know what? I think that's an excellent transition. Let's jump right into the book,
Absolutely.
right? Because time is flying, and jeez, I gotta let you go. But I want to talk about the book before you go anywhere. So let's talk about the new book real quick, and also where people can find the book and all that good old stuff. Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, first of all, I've had so many technical difficulties that it's not ready yet, but I
Okay.
am accepting pre-orders.
Okay.
You know, so for anyone who wants to pre-order my book, I'll sign it and mail it to you, of course. So you get a personal signature
There
from
you
me.
go.
But yeah, it's this book. It took me years to decide to write this book, and I wrote this book because I just felt like my story needed to be told. I've held back so many years on not talking about what happened, how my marriage ended, because I was protecting everybody else.
Right.
And then you kind of realize that nobody's protecting you. You know, there's, you know, people have their ideas about what happened. And the one thing that most people thought when we got divorced is that it was my fault. Like I wanted the divorce or whatever. But in my book, you find out, and I'll even talk about it. What happened was we went on a cruise and we took my parents on this cruise.
And stop right there, because I don't want you to give it away, because that's a good cliffhanger right there. I'm doing you a favor right now, because now I want to know, and I'm sure people who watch this want to know what actually happened on that cruise, right? And I think that's an excellent, excellent transition. So let's talk a little bit about how they can find you, how they can get the book and all that good old stuff. Yeah.
Okay, well, you can go to Nurture Your Love
Right.
on Instagram.
Love it.
And and go into my bio, and all my information is there. So Nurture Your Love. If on Instagram, it's Nurture Your Love. If you just want to go to my website, it's nurtureyourlove.com, and it's NUR. Most people type in NU, but it's NURTURE. Nurture. Yeah,
gotcha.
nurtureyourlove.com.
Gotcha.
So you can go there and you can pre-order my book. And just let me say that not only do I tell my story, but I also give you information on how not to end your marriage like mine. You know, I give a lot of information on, you know, communication, making sure that you know who you are. Because like I said, that's my motto. You have to know who you are. And I talk about my trauma, how my trauma affected, well, we both had trauma, and how our trauma affected our relationship, and how my ex-husband spent like 6 months dogging me out.
Wow. Don't say nothing else. Woo.
Where
This is
can
getting,
we can go where to find your book?
yeah. Where can we get the book? Where we get the book?
Nurtureyourlove.com.
Hold on. I got to use Sizzle. Hold on. Where's Sizzle? There you
Y'all
go.
funny.
That's Sizzle thing right
Y'all
there.
Y'all funny.
Hold on. Where they get it again? Where can they get it?
They might make this into a movie,
I know.
Dr. Dad.
This book sounds. I'm telling you. Go ahead. One more.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
It's nurtureyourlove.com, or I'm on Instagram as Nurture Your Love.
All right. No doubt. No doubt.
So
Well-
you'll find it. But let me wait.
No,
'cause
yeah, we waiting. Go ahead.
I want to give you the title.
Okay.
It's Unspoken Words, How Unresolved Conflicts Can Erode a Lifetime of Love. So I want you guys to keep in mind, I was married for 34 years.
Wow.
And it wasn't all bad. I could never say it was all bad. We had some really good years, but the end was horrible.
Okay.
The end was really bad. And like I said, most people think it was me, but it was actually him. And they'll find out in the book
There you
what
go.
actually happened.
Where they get it one more again?
Nurtureyourlove.com.
There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I call her Dr. Deb right there, because she drops those bombs, man. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. You already know that.
Thank you for having me. I
Absolutely,
appreciate
absolutely. And your other half here,
I
man.
know, my
So give him a round of
surprise.
applause. Yeah.
it.
You know, yeah, the
so
love.
sweet.
You can definitely see the love there, and I'm super excited about that. You dropped some jewels for Lady S. Dot over here, who just recently got married at a beautiful wedding that had me super busy. No, but it was a pleasure to see her how happy and how beautiful that wedding was, because
Yes,
that's what we
she
want
looked
for
gorgeous.
Lady S. Dot. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want you guys to go anywhere, because I think we have the other doc on. She's waiting backstage, so we're going to be right to you in a second. We're going to go to the sizzle, and then we got a jam-packed show, so I don't want you guys to go anywhere. When we come back, I believe we had a sizzle. Hey, Doc, I see you backstage. Can you got some time to hold on with us? She said, yes. I love you for that. I love you for that. So I want you guys to go anywhere. We're going to come back with the sizzle, and then we're going to have our next interview. Let's put this fantastic, Spark don't like this, but I like it. We'll be right back, y'all.